Talk the Gemara on Chavdalet Amid Beis. No, Chavdalet Amid Aleph, sorry. 24a. Bo Minei Rabbi Yochanan Mishmuel. So Rabbi Yochanan asked a question of Shmuel. And he asked him, Yesh Avelus B'Shabbos or Ein Avelus B'Shabbos? Is there mourning on Shabbos or is there not? Now, we're not talking about things that are public. We are talking about things that are done betzina, in a quiet way. Are there mournings on Shabbos or not? Amar lei. So Shmuel answered him, Ein avelus b'Shabbos. There's no mourning on Shabbos at all. Yasvi Rabbonon kamei de Rapapa v'ka'amru mishmei de Shmuel. So the rabbis were sitting in front of Rapapa. Rapapa was the rabbis. Are you able to see the screen all right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
V'ka'amri mishmei de Shmuel. And they brought a halacha in the name of Shmuel. Now, this would be, one of the questions: is there mourning on Shabbos or not? In private, which means, of course, publicly not, but in private, that would make a difference. Is a person allowed to be intimate with his wife on Shabbos if he's in mourning or not? If there's no Avelus b'Shabbos, then he's allowed to. If there is Avelus b'Shabbos, then he's not allowed to. So when he said Ein Avelus b'Shabbos, basically, even in quiet, even B'tzina, there is no mourning on Shabbos. So now the Gemara, they were saying, Yasvi Rabbonon kamei de Rav Papa. The way it used to be, the students would sit in front of the rabbi. The rabbi in this case was Rav Papa. So the rabbis were sitting in front of Rav Papa, and they quoted Mishmei de Shmuel, in the name of Shmuel, that Ovel Sheshimesh Mitose Bimei Evlei, a very harsh ruling that if he is in mourning and he had intimacy during the time of his mourning, Chayav Misa, he would be liable for death. Now, of course, we're not talking about death by Beis Din. We're talking about B'dei Shamayim, but
That doesn't sound any better.
it's still a pretty harsh. Yeah, what did you say? I'm sorry.
That doesn't sound much better, though.
Yeah, well, we will see. The Gemara is going to challenge this. So he basically says, in the name of Shmuel, they came and quoted to Rav Papa, in the name of Shmuel, that a mourner, Sheshimesh Mitosi B'mei Evle, during the morning, is liable for death. Amar le Rav Papa. So Rav Papa says, Asur Itmar, first of all, it didn't say that you are liable. It doesn't say you're liable for death. It just says it's prohibited, if anything. Umishmei de Rabbi Yochanan Itmar. And that is not in the name of Shmuel, that's in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Because on the contrary, according to Shmuel, he told him Ein Avelus b'Shabbos when Rabbi Yochanan asked from Shmuel. But Rabbi Yochanan himself, he holds that there is Avelus b'Shabbos, so therefore he says that it's Osur, but he's not going to say that you're Chayiv Misa, they should be liable for death. That's now. But he's saying further, if you did hear something in the name of Shmuel, this is what you heard. If you did hear something from Shmuel, this is what he said. He didn't say that is Me'evloi, that's Chayiv Misa. He said like this. Omar Rav Tachlifa bar Avima bar Shmuel. Rav Tachlifi, the son of Avima, said in the name of Shmuel that Ovel shalei pora v'shalei pirem chayiv misa. A mourner who has not let his hair grow, which means he took haircuts, he should let his hair grow. Or if he did not render his clothes, that means pirem. If he didn't let his grow and he didn't render his clothes, didn't do kriya, chayiv misa. That he would be liable for the death penalty, not for shimesh mitose b'me'evloi. Shenemar, because over there is a pasuk that says in Vayikra Perik Yud, Roshechem al tifra'u uvigdeichem loisifreimu v'loisomusu. That was said to the relatives of Nodov Avihu after they died. So the brothers, he told them that they should not let their hair grow, and their hair and their garments they should not render, so that they don't die, because that was an exceptional rule. It was the time of the inauguration of the Mishkan, at the time of Rosh Chodesh Nisan when this took place. So he told them not to do it, and if they do it, they will be chayiv misa. So, so from here we can learn, if someone else who doesn't have this special instruction from Hashem with regards to that particular occasion, if he did not let his hair grow, and he didn't render his clothes as chayiv misa, he would be chayiv misa. So that statement you can attribute to Shmuel, but not this statement to say chayiv misa for an ovel sheshimish mitosei on Shabbos. Omar Rafrom Bar Papa. So says Rafrom Bar Papa, Tono be'Evel Rabosi, we learned in the Evel Rabosi. Evel Rabosi is talking about the tractate Smochis. That's a tractate that has been added to the Talmud. It's called the Sechta Smochis, that it has different setup and layout the way the rest of the Gemara. But over there we learned in the Sechta Smochis, Evel Rabosi, that Ovel Osur L'Shamesh Mitosei Bimei Evloi, the law that an Ovel is prohibited to be intimate during the times of mourning. Umaisa goes on, the Echot Sheshimesh Mitosei Bimei Evloi tells a story about one who did not listen and did have intimacy during the times of mourning. V'shomtu chavzeirim as gviyosei. So I get the swines over there slipped away. I'm not sure exactly what they did, or they ate him up. Is gviyosei means his entire body. And others said that is his limb. Basically, that's to express the severity of not being Meshamish Mitosei during the times of mourning. And that's what's brought down over there in Mesechta Smachis. That's called the Evel Rabosi. Omar Shmuel, now, Shmuel says, what are the things that one has to refrain on Shabbos when he is when he's in mourning? There are certain things that are public display. We're going to talk about 6 things. 3 of them are hinted in the word pachaz, peiches zayin, and 3 of them are hinted in the word neser, notesh tofresh. So Shmuel says that pachaz, the peiches zayin choyva, that's mandatory. In other words, you have to keep it, and you're not allowed to on Shabbos do these mourning signs, because that's a very clear declaration of mourning. You shouldn't do that on Shabbos. However, the abbreviation of Neser, Nun Tov Reish, is Rishus. You could or you could not do it on Shabbos. And he explains. So he says, Priyas Harosh. Priyas Harosh, meaning to uncover the head. Before we touch Priyas Harosh to let your hair grow, but of course on Shabbos you can't cut your hair anywhere. So Priyas Harosh, Rashi says, Shemegale ha'ovel reishe b'Shabbos. Uh, uh, that he will uh, reveal, the ovel will reveal his head on Shabbos, and he doesn't wrap around like a mourner. There is, uh, during the time of mourning, there would be misatev. They would wrap themselves around with the garment in a way of mourning. So over here, on Shabbos, you have to reveal the ovel's head. Ve'enim misatev, and he's not to wrap himself around. And then the next thing is v'chazoras kerel la'achirov. He has to put the rip in the back. So let's say he rendered his garment, but he doesn't have any closer. He doesn't want to change his clothing. So then what he does is he turns the tear to his back. So in his front, you don't see the rip. He has to turn around. He has to turn the wrap, the tear he has to put to his back, so you can't see it. And also, uskifa samito, and to raise the bed, because during the shiva, the bed is still turned over for a low stool for a sign of mourning. Shabbos, you have to raise the bed. That's choiva b'Shabbos. That's mandatory in Shabbos. So again, so look at the Gemara. Priyas harosh, uncovering the head, not to be in the morning. Chazoras kerel la'achirov, to turn the rip to the back. And zkifas hamito, and to raise the bed. That's choiva. That's mandatory. Now, the things that are optional, he says, Ne'ilas hasandal, he says, putting on a shoe, putting on shoes. Sometimes people wear slippers. Sometimes people go in their socks. So you don't have to put on your shoes on Shabbos. That's optional. Ne'ilas hasandal. Rashi explains about Ne'ilas hasandal. The lav kula almo saimu misanayu b'Shabbos. Not everybody puts on the shoes on Shabbos. And v'leimuchach the avahu. It's not evident that he's in mourning. So if you don't put on your shoes, it's okay. You don't have to put on your shoes. Tashmish hamita, that's in private. So that's really, it's up to you, according to this opinion. And rechitzas yadayim v'raglayim b'chamin arvis, to wash one's hands and feet in warm water, arvis, that's before, I guess, before Shabbos, like this, there's a mitzvah to bathe before Shabbos in honor of the Shabbos. In the evening, to washing one's hands and feet in warm water in the evening before Shabbos, that's optional, because it's not like declaring, if you're not gonna, if you're gonna wash your hand, you're allowed to wash your hands. That's fine. You're not gonna tell. You don't have to tell people that you're a mourner by not washing your hands. But Rab Omar, and Rab disagrees, and he says, Af priya sarosh rishus, that also you are allowed to you don't have to uncover if you want to wear your hood or your cover that you do in the morning, that's okay, Rav says. And Ushmuel, but Shmuel said, uh, so the Gemara says, the Gemara has a question on Shmuel. Why does Shmuel say? Rav says if he wants, he can uncover, but he doesn't have to uncover his head. So the Gemara asks on Shmuel, why is he insist that he has to uncover his hair? Because even if he doesn't cover it, even if it covers his head, other people who are not mourners also keep their head covers. That wouldn't prove that he's mourning, just like you okay that he can wear the shoes. According to Shmuel also, he says that he can wear the shoes. He doesn't have to wear the shoes because some people go without shoes. So some people go with the heads covered. What does he care? The Gemara asks. Let's look at the Gemara. Ushmuel, the Gemara says Shmuel, Maishnoni ila sandal the shoes. Why is it different that you allow him to put on the shoe? You wonder why? You allow him to wear the shoe, because the lav kula alma avidi the saimi misanayu, because not everybody puts on shoes. So if he's not going to put on his shoe, isn't going to mean that he's a mourner. There's no proof that he's a mourner. So that's why you allow him. If he doesn't want to put on his shoe on Shabbos, it's not going to be taken as a mourner because a lot of people don't put on their shoes. So the same thing should be Priyas Harishnami. Why are you insisting, saying that that's mandatory? Lav kula alma avdi de magalu reshayu. Not everybody is meant to uncover their hair, their heads. Some people were covered. So why do you insist and you say it's an obligation that he has to uncover so that he shouldn't be looked at as a mourner? Rashi. Lav kula alma magalu reshayu b'Shabbos. Not everybody reveals their heads on Shabbos. So therefore, why are you insisting that he has to reveal his head? Even if he wraps himself around, he does not appear like a mourner because other people also wrap themselves up on Shabbos. And so why are you saying, just like you're not saying that he has to put on shoes, because not everybody and not wearing shoes doesn't make you into a mourner. So covering your head doesn't make you into a mourner either. And the Gemara answers, no. That Shmuel litaimei. Shmuel goes according to his reasoning that he said elsewhere. That's why he insists, according to his reason elsewhere, he insists that you have to uncover your head on Shabbos, because otherwise you look like a mourner. Why? The Amar Shmuel. Shmuel said, he said two halachas over here. He said, Kol kera she'ene b'shas chimum. If you're rendering the clothes, your garments, not in a time when you're heated up. In other words, when you first get the news, you're very upset. That's when you got to do kriya, not later on. B'shas chimum, zokt Rashi, b'shas hascholas hatzar, b'shas misa. When the pain starts, when the person at the time of death, when you're in pain, that's when you do kriya. That's when you rip. If you don't do it then, ein kera. That's not considered to be a rip. Because ripping, rendering the clothes has to be done at the time when you're really upset. And another says, V'chol atifa, she'eino katifas Ishmaelim. He says, anytime you wrap yourself around, but it's not wrapped like the Yishmaelim, meaning when you're wrapping yourself around as mourners, but you don't fully wrap yourself around, Eina Atifa, that's not considered to be a good wrapping around. And therefore, Zokt Rashi, B'chol Atifa she'ena kativus Yishmaelim, Hilkach. Kiv on the kol yemei shavua shehu ovel, misatev ki Yishmael, since all the days of the week he is wrapping himself salah like an Ishmaelite, because that's the extent wrapping has to be done as the Yishmaelim. Im eina noitla b'Shabbos, if you're not going to remove that wrap on Shabbos, nire kinog avelis, that's going to appear like you're doing mourning. Why? The kula alma lenehigi batil vazu elavelim b'levad, because nobody conducts themselves with this kind of a wrap besides avelim, and therefore you will appear. So when it says here, you can't wrap, meaning you can't wrap like the avelim, and that's going to be taken as a sign of mourning on Shabbos. That's what you can't do. Machmir Rab Nachman. So Rab Nachman showed what is the shear of Atifas Yishmaelim when they wrap around. So he showed it, Atifas Yishmaelim, at Guvi Didikna, up till the holes that are in the cheek below your mouth, all the ways down. That means to wrap yourself fully around.
Funny, they're still wrapping themselves that way. They look like terrorists.
What?
That's how the Ishmaelite terrorists are still wrapping themselves that way.
Yeah, that's true. Amar Rabbi Yankiv, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rabbi Yankiv in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. That Lo Shonu, that when did we say this halacha that you have to keep unwrapped if there is no other sign of mourning? But if you have shoes on, you're showing very clearly that you're not in mourning, then you can stay wrapped up. Let's see what Rashi says. Lo shonu priya sorosh b'Shabbos. We did not learn that you need to be uncovered your hair on Shabbos. You have to reveal your nose, your lips, and your beard. That it was covered during the morning, to tell us that there's no available b'Shabbos. When do we say that? Elo, that's only in a case she'ein min olim beraglov. He doesn't have shoes on his feet. Then you must make it very clear that you're not doing any mourning here on Shabbos when there's no shoes on your feet. Avol yesh min olim beraglov. But when he has shoes on his feet, min olav meichichim olav, your shoes are proof, are evidence, the ene oval, that he's not really an oval, because if he was an oval, why would he be wearing shoes? So they prove that he's not an oval. Avol legalis roishei ene tzorich. But to reveal his head to make sure that he's not taken in the morning, he doesn't need to. The imbol is atev b'tzina. If he wants to wrap himself out in quiet, in other words, he wants to practice avelis, afila kativis ya'ishmaelim ein b'kach klum, then it doesn't matter. He has the option. The Gemara says, "Lo shonu elo she'ein lo min alim beraglo." He doesn't have shoes on his feet. Avol yesh lo min alim beraglo. If he has shoes on his feet, Min olav, mechichin olav, his shoes will prove on him that he is not in mourning, and let him go ahead and wear cover his head. Um, now, I'm not sure what does Rashi mean here. What does Rashi mean here when Rashi says in bolis atev betzina? Does Rashi mean when he wearing shoes? Then we say that you can do it even publicly. Rashi's adding that even if it's not, it's only because other people see you. But if you are doing it bitsina, then you can wrap yourself up even like Atifus Yishmaelim, because bitsina nobody knows, and there is an avelus bitzia which should be okay. So now the Gemara asks, you mentioned before that kol kera she'ene b'shas chimum. If you do the rendering, you do kriya, not in the time that you heat it up, eine kera, that's not going to be considered a rendering. Frag the Gemara, v'amru lein the Shmuel, they said to Shmuel, to me, noch nafshe derav. Now can you speak a little lower? Amru lein the Shmuel, noch nafshe derav. They told Shmuel that the Rav died. Kora Allah Tereser money. He did 12 times rendering of his garments. 12 times he did Kriya. Omar, and what he said, Ozo Gabro, Dahavi Mistafino Minei. The person has gone, the person that I was afraid of him. Mistafino Minei Bikushi, questions, he would question. Shmuel said that Rav would always challenge him. You know, Rav and Shmuel were always fighting each other. So he says, this person that I was afraid of, when? Same thing is in another cases. Amar le Rabbi Yochanan, they told Rabbi Yochanan, noch nafshi de Rab Chanina, Rab Chanina passed away. Kora le Treiser Itzele Milsa. So he rendered on him 13 garments of silk, very expensive garments. He ripped them. Omar, he also says, Ozal Gabro Dahaba Mistafinimere, the person that I was afraid for is gone. So here you see that he didn't only rip it when he heard that he died. 12 times, that means that it was much later. Why are you saying that only if you do it when you heard that the person died? That's a question. The Gemara says, Shani Rabbanon. It's different by the rabbis. It's a different idea. The Kivon, the whole Shaita Mitchir Ishmatayu. Since at all times they remember their learning, Kishas Chimum Dami. That's considered like heated up. Kishas Chimum Dami, which means they're so upset all the time, even though it's after death and it's been for a while, it's still considered Kishas Chimum Dami. Amalei Ravin Bar Ada L'Rav. So Ravin Bar Ada says to Rav, Omar Talmidcha Rab Amram. So he's telling Rav that Ravin Bar Ada is telling Rav that your student Rab Amram said that Tanya, that we learned in Abraisa, that Ovel Kol Shiva Koirei Lefonov. That all 7 days, the rendering is done in the front. The imbo lahachlif. And if he wishes to change, the garment, he doesn't want it. Machliv v'kareya, he can change to another garment, but he have to rip the new garment. Machliv v'kareya. So that means that even though it's not a heated up time, it's already gone. Some time has gone through. The heat is there. It's still considered B'Shabbos on Shabbos, koiroi la'achoirav. The rip is in the back. V'im bo la'hachliv. But if he wants to change that garment on Shabbos, machliv ein, then he changes it, but he doesn't have to rip it. It's Shabbos. Shabbos you don't rip. So on Shabbos you wear the rip in the back. But if you want to change your shirt or the machlif, you change. Then you don't rip. So again, you see that he's changing the shirt. That's not the time of death. So why is the kriya? And the Gemara says, Kitanya hahi, that brisa that it says that you have to render again is bekvoid aviv v'imay. We're talking about for the honors, especially for a father and mother. Kvoid aviv shanu. We learn it for this father. Aval lekula alma. So by a parent over there, it's very much heated up all the time, even later on. So therefore, you can do the kriya. Aval lekula alma ein kera ein kareya ela b'shaschanu. But for everybody else, the kriya is only done at the time that the heat is up. Zog the Gemara, oisom kiroim, those extra rips that the person does beyond the one rip. So like this, we say, once you render the garment, you're not allowed to prepare, you're not allowed to sew it together. But these rips, the additional ones, misachin, can they be sewn together or misachin? Achin is brothers. Do they become brothers again? In other words, do you combine them? Do you unite them or not? And the Gemara says, Ligibo, so there's a disagreement in this between Abua, the Rabbi Shaya, Bar Kapora, between the father of Rabbi Shaya and the son of Kapora. Chadomar, one of them, we don't know exactly who said what. One of them said, Ein misachin, cannot sew them together. V'chadomar misachin, one said that you could put them together. And the Gemara says, even though they didn't say Tistayim, I can prove to you the Abuah, the Rabbi Ishaya, the Omar Ein Mesachim, that it was the father of Rabbi Ishaya who says that they shouldn't be sewn. The father of Rabbi Ishaya, the Omar Rabbi Ishaya, because Rabbi Ishaya said Ein Mesachim. So who told him Ein Mesachim? Who did he hear it from? Lav me Abuah, he didn't hear from his father, must have heard it from his father. So it must be that his father, Abuah, that Rabbi Ishaya is the one that said Misachim, that you can't sew it, and that's why he said also Misachim. The Gemara says, Miman Shmile Rabbi Ishaya, Hoda Omar Ein Misachim. From whom did he hear it that he said that Rabbi Ishaya Misachim? Shmamino, so must be from his father. Shmamino Hoda Omar Ein Misachim. Who's one that said Ein Misachim Abu Rabbi Ishaya? Love me Abu. The Gemara loy. No. Bar Kapora Rabbi Shami. He heard it from his teacher Bar Kapora. So you had two people. Maybe Bar Kapora was the teacher of Rabbi Ishaya, and he's the one that told him, and he is the one that says Ein Misachim. So we don't have any evidence who said what. Omar Rava says Rava. Avo metayel bu'onkeli b'toich beisai. We're talking on Shabbos. The ovel can walk around with the onkeli. The onkeli is the rendered shirt that has the rip on it. Onkeli is oktrashi shapunish choluk shekore. That's the shirt that he ripped in his house because that's the tzino. That's bitzino. Beter meise. Shebitzino muter linoig avelus b'Shabbos. In a quiet way, you can keep avelus b'Shabbos. Okay. Abaye, the Gemara says, Abaye, Ashkechel le Rabbi Yosef, the Poris le Sudra Resha. He said he saw that Rabbi Yosef had a kerchief, a cover on his head, like a mourner on Shabbos. The Poris Sudra Resha, Shabbos. And he did it Mishum Atifa, the Noig Avelis. It's because of the wrapping around, because he conducted himself with mourning. V'ozil v'osi b'vist, and he was going and coming in the house. Amar lei, so he said to him, Lav sover lo mare in Avelis b'Shabbos, don't you hold, Master, that there's no Avelis of Shabbos? Amar lei, Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Devorim shebetzino noyeg. That things that are quiet, you can. It's my own house. I'm doing it in a quiet way, so therefore it's okay for me to conduct myself in mourning. Further, the Mishnah says, Rabbi Lezer Omer Mishachorav Beis Hamikdash, that after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, Atzeres Kishabes. The question was, how many days does the Yom Tov Shavuos allow you take away? Because Shavuos is only one day. But in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, because you actually literally brought the Karbonis, so therefore the morning, the Shiva takes away full 7 days, because you can make up with the Karbonis, but now when there's no Karbonis, so Rabbi Lezer says, he disagrees on Rabbi Gamliel, he says, Mishachora Beis Hamikdash Atzeres Kishabes. When the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, Atzeres is like Shabbos. You only have 1 day, and it doesn't take away the 7 days of mourning. It's just considered like Shabbos. Omar Rav Gidl bar Menashe Omar Shmuel. Rav Gidl, the son of Menashe, said the name of Shmuel. Halacha ki Rabbi Gamliel. Halacha is like Rabbi Gamliel. That what? That it still takes away 7 days. That's the statement that Rabbi Gidl bar Menashe the name of Shmuel. But the ikot the masne lahod that Rabbi Gidl bar Menashe aho. Some people learned that what Rabbi Gidl bar Menashe said on a different case, not on this case over here. When he said, we learned that kol lamed yoim tinuk yotze b'chei, during the entire 30 days. If God forbid the baby dies within the first 30 days, it's called a nefel. So when you carry him out during the entire 30 days, the baby yotze b'chei, he goes up, you hold him by the lap. You don't make a coffin for him. You don't put him, you just hold him in the lap to bury him. Kol lamed yoim yotze b'chei. You know, today they don't even do it. It's a question at what point exactly, but that's halachic. It's another issue. But during the first 30 days, we don't consider it. After 30 days, the child is already considered everything. But a miscarried, if it's so, then it's not, also nothing. So, but the 30 days, Yoitze B'chek, Rashi, Ben Lamed Yoim, Moitzia B'chek Lebeis HaKvoris. Even if 30 days, you take him in your lap to the burial, V'loi Ba'arim, but you don't use a coffin. V'nikbar B'isha Achas U'shnei Anoshim, and you bury him. You don't need no minyan, you don't need, and one woman and 2 men can do the burial, but one woman and 2 men, because of the laws of tznius and yichud, you can't have 1 man and 2 women. Even 2, you can't, and this is considered to be outside, so therefore you cannot be misyachid, and you cannot have one man and two women, two men and one woman. Further, let's turn the page. Abdallah base. So further, Abba Shaul Eimer, Abba Shaul says, Af bi'ish echad ushtei noshim. You can even do it, even one man and two women. On this conditions, we're not worried about the yichud in this case when you're going out for the burial, and that would be okay. Even one man and two women. Further, up to 30 days is in 30 days. Normally, you make a line so you comfort the mourners to go through the line. But for this age, 30 days, you don't do it. You don't have to stay in a line. Rashi explains what happens is normally when you return, when people come back from the Beis HaKvaris, from the cemetery, so people make a line in front of the mourner. Now the oval comes in a line, but this was a line made in front of it. And everybody says him, you should be comforted. Today the mourner goes by. The people over there, the people used to make a line in front of the mourner. But if he's only up to 30 days, the 30 days you don't do that. This is a special blessing. We don't say that today, but special blessing for mourners. There is a blessing that is said in the square of the city. It's Kili Omar, like it says in the Gemara Ksubas. Over there, the Gemara discusses the bracha that you say for the mourners. And there's also no tanchum avelim. There's no comforting of the mourners. Kol shiva hilchem lenachmei beise. All shiva. It says they don't say. Tanchum Rashi says kol shiva. They do go. No, Rashi means to say, and we don't do that. Normally, Tanchum Avelim is all 7 days you go to comfort the mourner in his home. But here you don't do that. But Ben Shloishim, but once he turns 30 days, and Yotze B'Lus Kuma. Apparently on the 30 days, we're still not going to do the other things, but with a Luskuma, that's a coffin. Luskuma is Ored, that's a coffin. A coffin we will do in 30 days. So, and Rabbi Yehuda Eimer, and Rabbi Yehuda says, Loy Luskuma Hanitelas Bekosif, not to use a box that you put on one shoulder, like a very tiny box. Like one person could carry it. It tells Bekosif Ba'odam Echad by one person. Elo Hanitelas Bagapayim. You have to take it with your hands. You may make it a little larger, so it takes two people to carry it. Ba'agapayim b'shnei b'nei odom derech kavod. Two people in an honorable way. B'emdim olav b'shura, and you do stand in a line. B'emrim olav birchas avelim, and you do the blessing for the mourners, tanchum avelim, and the comforting of the mourner. This all changes when he turns 30 days old. You do all these things. What happens when Yud Beis Chodesh, once he turns 12 months, over there, not only in a coffin, Yotze B'mita, he goes out in the bed. Those days, they used to bury him with the bed. They used to take out the mita, take out the bed. Rabbi Akiva says, Hu ben shono be'evrov ki ben shtayim. If he's a year old, but the developed limbs like a 2-year-old, even though he's a year old. Ve'evrov ki ben shtayim she'evrov gedolim. He has large limbs. Or hu ben shtayim ve'evrov ki ben shono. Or if he's 2, even if his limb is like a year old, yetzi b'mita, then you take him in the bed. But if he's just a year old and his small limbs, we're not going to take him in a bed.
That mean the bed and the coffin?
That means what? I'm sorry.
Like they put the bed on the coffin on the
No,
bed?
no, they buried him with the with the bed. They bring him over there because Mita. Everything talks about the Mita. They brought him to the cave and they buried him in the ground. They didn't bury him in a box. They didn't carry him. They just buried him in the ground. And they brought him there. The the whole Gemara, every time it's about the bed. They used to take him in a bed when they are of the age already of, we're talking about a 2 year old or not like according, depending on the opinion. Rabbi Shimon Elazar says, Hayetze b'mita, if he's already at the age that you carry him with a bed, Rabbi Matz Hivim Olav. The many are in pain and they feel and they're painful. Matz Hivim, Dr. Rashi, Margishim Umitzarav, they feel and they're in pain. But Ein Yetze b'mita, if he doesn't go on the bed, he's too young. Ein Rabbi Matzim Olav, so they don't go out in that level. Rabbi Lezer ben Azariah, he has a different opinion. He says, Niker l'rabim, if he was known to the many, shohayu makirim kvar. In other words, he was already known. He was a child that went out of the house. Rashi says, shohayu makirim kvar, shohayu rogi lotzis min habayis. He was going out of the house. So then, Rabbi is asking boy. Then you have the many occupying himself, treat him like a regular mace. So you have many. But Ein Nikil Rabbim, if he wasn't known to the people who are still at home all the time, Ein Rabbim is asking, but you don't have many occupying this. So the Gemara says, Mahin behesped. What is the din for eulogy? How old? Mahin behesped Rashi, Kama yehe godlu shemitzvah lahaspida. How old does he have to be that it's a mitzvah to eulogize? So here the Gemara says something interesting. Rabbi Meir, b'shem Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Rabbi Meir named Rabbi Shmuel says, Aniyim b'nei sholish. If it's a poor kid, a kid from poor parents, if they're aniyim, aniyim don't have much. All what they have is their kids. So if they lose a kid, it's very painful to them. A rich guy, if he loses a kid, but he has some money. Look what Rashi says. Aniyim b'nei sholish lefi sha'oni mitztayir al bonov yeser min ha'oshir. The poor man, Oni, the poor man, the poor person, is in pain for his children more than the rich person. He doesn't have anything else to rejoice for. He doesn't have no money to be happy with. But Ashirim, so therefore they eulogize from a younger age. But Ashirim is B'nai Chomish, has to be at least 5. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishmoi, this is what Rabbi Meir said in the name of Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Rabbi Shmuel, that Ani B'nai Chomish, they got to be 5 years old to eulogize, and Ashirim B'nai Sheish. And B'nai Zkenim, children that have the old age, Kibnei Aniyim, because they're also, the children are more precious to them. Now, I don't know what the criteria of being an Ashir, money, and everything else, but anyways, you know. Omar Rav Gidl bar Menashe, Omar Rav. So Rav Gidl Menashe is the name of Rav. So here is the other case that the Gemara brings down, that halacha, the halacha is Rabbi Yehuda she'amar mishum Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Rabbi Shmuel that we go b'nei chomesh by anim and b'nei sheish by ashirim b'nei zkenim, and not in our Gemara. So this is a different, totally different Gemara. Okay, let's leave it over here, and Well, Mamshich and Mr. Hashem next week, same time, same station.
Thank you very much,
Moving
Rabbi.
right along.
Thank
A
you
good
very
night
much,
and a good
Rabbi.
week,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good
Thank you.
job.
Everybody,
Have a
Mr.
good
Hashem
Shabbos.
next week. And good Shabbos. Thank you.